this is Yaro Stark, and welcome to another interview with an expert entrepreneur. Today on the line with me, I have Scott Valdez, who came to me in a kind of interesting way, actually. I made a mistake. I sent an email to some of my subscribers that should not have been sent. Scott was replying to it saying, "Why did I get this?" I said, "Don't worry about it. It was a mistake." And then he told me about his business, which is virtual dating assistance. And it's a business that we'll talk about a bit more in a moment. But basically, you can outsource your online dating to Scott's business. So I'd like to talk to Scott about how he set that business up, but also get his background as an entrepreneur. So Scott, welcome to the call.
Thank you for having me.
So I always like to start these at the beginning and then go back to your history. I actually don't even know how old you are, Scott. So how far back do we have to go to get to your university days or your high school days, wherever you stopped your studies?
Not too far.
Yep.
Not too far. I'm 26.
Okay. So did you go to university?
Yeah. I went to the University of Georgia.
And that was a degree in
marketing.
Okay. So you stuck to the business world?
Yeah. Right out of school, I went into sales in a startup company. So it was I was working in like a sales and marketing manager, and eventually I actually started kind of in the trenches in sales, and then I was quickly promoted into like a sales and management position. And I worked there for just a year and a half out of school, and actually just right around 2 years actually, and then from there I started a virtual dating assistants. Okay. And I've been doing that for 2 years. So I've been out of school for 4.
Okay, so we don't have that long history here to dive into. This is
yeah, it's a short history.
This is your virtual dating assistants is your first entrepreneur play. Would that be correct?
Yeah. I've played with some other ideas. I launched an events company, pretty small scale. It didn't go as well. I mean, it just was so much work for so little potential payback, and so I dropped that, and then I started this.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, what was it you were selling in that sales role before you became an entrepreneur?
It was translation services.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so I'm assuming then you were not happy with working for someone else. Does that prompt you to leave?
It wasn't so much that. It was a small startup company, and there wasn't that much room for growth. There's about 50 employees, and the company was growing fairly quickly. But I've always kind of had the entrepreneurial spirit. I really enjoyed kind of watching the company grow while I was there. I mean, it almost doubled in size. So I kind of saw the progression. I mean, we went from very archaic, using these spreadsheets to keep track of all of our sales leads, to eventually moving into CRM systems, and just kind of seeing the company evolve over the period of almost 2 years that I was there. I mean, it really just kind of influenced me in the sense that I wanted to take my own company from archaic to something very real and profitable. So
why the internet? Why did you turn to that medium?
Well, it was kind of obvious, the translation company. It was a virtual company. All the employees, I mean, most people were, the people that were home based, and there was an offshore office, but everybody was kind of everywhere. And so the company was completely online driven. All of their sales leads came through because they were ranking for some translation keywords very highly, and everything would come through online. And so they were just completely online based. And so just working in that company, I just kind of, the flexibility, even because everybody was virtual and we could move around, and just doing everything online, I just saw that they didn't have as much overhead with the offices and all this thing. I just saw the benefits of that kind of structure. So when I decided to start my own business, while I was working in that company, I tried an events thing, and that was kind of location based, and it was extremely time consuming, and I just realized that I didn't want to go into that kind of business. I didn't want to open up a bar, any kind of physical location. I wanted to do something that was internet based, that I could do from anywhere in the world that I wanted to be. And that's why actually right now as we're talking, I'm in Argentina. And I'm going to be moving to Colombia in a few months, working a little bit from Europe this summer. And I just love that kind of flexibility, kind of be wherever you want, whenever you want.
So you really have the ability to travel anytime you like. you can run your business. How many hours does it even take to run a business at the moment for you?
Well, right now it takes way too many hours. Right now I'm still kind of, figuring out the processes and figuring out how to make it so it's extremely, it can run itself.
Okay,
It's
well,
still the point of trying to figure out how to scale it,
all right. Well, this is a great time to interview you then, so we kind of caught you in the middle of having a success story. But let's talk about how you transitioned away from having a job to running your online business and traveling to these different places. Did you do both at the same time? Like, obviously you had the events business that failed. You must have felt, well, I mean, let's not call it failed. Let's say you learned something from that, and then you decided internet business was the way to go. Was it a case of just starting something on the side at nighttime after work? Is that how you began virtual dating assistants?
No, the events company was on the side. But when I started virtual dating assistants, I'd already made the decision to leave the company I was working at.
How come?
I was looking at different, just because there wasn't that much room for growth. It was kind of like one of those, the economy was starting to kind of turn downhill, and some people called me crazy. What are you going to do? Leave? But I had some really good ideas, and one of them was virtual dating assistants. So I had a few different ideas, and I started just kind of, researching and really looking into what I thought was my best bet. Virtual dating assistants may or may not have been my best bet, but it was the one that I knew that I would really enjoy if it worked. Just because I'm really passionate and I love online dating and I love like this kind of business model. Not necessarily the services model so much, but it did allow me to be completely virtual, and I had just a lot of the things that I was looking for. So that's why I picked this idea and launched it as soon as I left that job.
How could you take the risk, though, financially, of quitting a job and starting a business that may or may not ever make you money?
It's one of those things. I've got a family that if I really needed help, I could move back in with the parents. The risk was not me being in the street starving. It was me running out of money and having to get another real job. And I was confident that I'd built a resume already, and I could find another job, even if the market was more difficult. If I really tried, I could find another job. But that was actually part of my motivation to really kick ass right from the start, is that I didn't want to go home. And I started the company that I was working before they had an office in Argentina. And I started actually the company from Buenos Aires, Argentina. And I didn't want to go home. And I knew how much money I had in the bank. And once that money was gone, I was heading home. And so it's one of those things. It's great motivation.
It is. And how many months did that cash reserve give you? Like, you've got the pressure of moving back to your parents, leaving Argentina, and getting a job, which probably are three things you didn't want to do. So that's very motivating. What time frame did you have to make this a success, given your situation?
Yeah, without digging into any of the investments that I'd made in terms of stocks and things, which I didn't want to do. I was probably going to go home before that happened, and luckily that never did happen. But I gave myself about 5 months.
Okay, so you had to. I guess being in Argentina, you had less costs. Would that be correct than living in the States?
Yeah, not substantially. The city's gotten expensive in the last few years. It's not what Tim Ferriss with his 4-hour work week, what he was talking about with these crazy low prices, but it was the cost of living of a cheap U.S. city.
Okay, so yeah, you really had to get your nose down and make an income stream within 5 months. So that's a lot of pressure. What did you do? Day one, give us the story. You quit your job and you're sitting at home. What happens next?
Well, I went on. First thing I did is I went on a cruise. had the brother meet me down here. We went on a cruise from Buenos Aires to Santiago. But the whole time I was kind of just, I was playing with the ideas I had and making sure that I picked the right one. And by the time I got off the cruise, I knew what I was going to do, which was virtual dating assistance. So as soon as I got off the cruise, I came back to my apartment here in Buenos Aires, and I just started basically, researching online, making sure no one had ever done anything similar, trying to get an idea of my target market, what kind of pricing I could do, what I'd have to pay here, and just how the hell I was going to market it. I basically, I had the concept. I knew exactly what I was going to do because I I had actually outsourced my own online dating. This is kind of
Yeah.
the big part of the background. That's how I had the idea, because I paid someone to manage my online dating accounts before.
And maybe you can tell us more about that. I've done some online dating as well, but I've never actually outsourced anything. So I'm. Can you tell us the background of your own personal experience and how that led to a business?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, basically, what happened with me is I met a longtime girlfriend on Facebook in college. So when I got done with school, like the first thing I did is when we broke up, because we changed cities, we're kind of going in our own directions, and so the first thing I did is got back online. But with the startup company, the company I took the job with, the translation company, it was really time. It was really demanding. It was very time intensive. And I wanted to do other things like go to the gym and see friends, and my time was just kind of, it felt like it was just kind of melting away. I didn't have time to do everything I wanted to. So I kind of had access to a secretary at that job, and so I would delegate a lot of day-to-day things that were kind of more menial tasks. And so I looked at online dating and I said, well, I've just basically got this system. I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. I've figured out what's effective, and I'm just kind of rinsing and repeating this process. And so why not just get somebody to do this for me for less than what I consider my own time worth per hour, right? So I find somebody that's fairly cheap but competent and can do the work. Well, I ended up finding someone on Craigslist, hired him. He was just a recent college grad, just kind of looking for some freelance writing work. And so I just basically trained him. I mean, I had a lot of templates, and I kind of had online dating down to a science already. I just spent a lot of time on it. And so I just kind of gave him the system that I'd come up with. And it took some kind of back and forth and things, but eventually I just let him loose, and he just started setting up dates for me. And the reason I thought that virtual dating assistance was a good idea is because a lot of people around me were kind of paying attention to what I was doing, and they were all interested. And even my brother, who's a emergency medicine doctor, he was really interested. Like, you got to give me this guy and just let him send some messages for me too, this kind of thing. So I just saw a lot of people that I thought would be interested in this kind of service if it did exist, but it didn't.
Okay, you'll have to indulge me here a little bit, because I'm curious too, and I get the concept of outsourcing your online dating, but can you be a little bit more specific? Like, does this person search profiles, and how do they know what you're looking for in terms of even what someone looks like? And then do they make the initial contact to people, and then do they arrange a date, but do they have to check with you for your schedule? And how do the particulars work for this? It seems to be a lot of logistics and personal preferences that you have to get right here.
Yeah, it is. It takes a lot of back and forth at the very beginning. The process I was using then is very different from the process that we now use for the company.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously evolved a lot, but yeah, I mean, at the beginning, I mean, the assistant's going to have a good idea if you've already emailed some people of what you're looking for in terms of attractiveness. And for guys, I mean, attractiveness is 95% of the full puzzle. I mean, of what they're actually looking for. So what I would have the assistant do is send me like a list of people that looked interesting, and I'd go through and just give a yes, no, or on each one. And then anyone that I was interested in, they would send an initial message. If they responded, at that point, sometime I was doing a little bit of the back and forth myself. I just saw you have to send all of these emails just to get a few responses. So sometimes it just takes time. It's really time consuming to find them in the first place, and then to send let's even say you're getting 1 out of 5 to respond. You have to send 5 emails to get 1 response. So I was like, okay, that was the first thing I delegated. Eventually, the assistant just started doing everything, and so whenever he set up a date, he would just let me know, and then I would tell him my availability and give him an idea of where we could meet. And then once everything was set up, I would just go into the account and kind of just look at all the emails that were exchanged and make sure that I was fully up to date with the communication, so that when
Yep.
there was a kind of a smooth transition into me meeting her.
Yeah, you want to know, she told you her life story and you know nothing about her because you didn't read the communications. So
yeah, exactly.
Okay, and this I mean, I can certainly validate the idea that you do need to continually go out, and 1 in 5, 1 in 10 people will respond. So there's a bit of a volume game there in terms of just contacting enough people to get responses. So that makes sense for outsourcing. I think for me, I get a little bit I'm curious more than anything about how you can actually have another person communicate on your behalf, because you're going to write a different style in email communication, because I'm assuming this is through email or messaging at a website. So, have you had issues with that? Like your assistant is talking in one tone and then you turn out to not talk like that at all? Is there challenges like that?
Not really. It is really kind of surprising, but that really never happened with me, and it never really happens with our clients either. I think that people just have such a hard time gauging other people online that they're kind of used to that disconnect between what they kind of see online and what's in person. And with our clients, with our specific company, I mean, within the company, I mean, we really get to know them. So we do change the style quite a bit for the client, and we have like different points, with the word checkpoints during the process. So we'll send we'll send them like, these style examples to show him what kind of emails we would plan to send. And a lot of clients will give us feedback and kind of change things around. And then we use the feedback to help us kind of adjust our writing style for the other emails that we send. So it does take some back and forth at the beginning. That's what I said earlier. Like at the beginning, it does take like to get on the same page between the writer and the client. There's some back and forth that has to occur, and it does take a little bit of time. But then once that's everything's set up in the right way, then it's very automated. I mean, you don't have to, in terms of for the client, I mean, he's going through this list of candidates, putting yes, no, and then he's finding out like maybe there's some questions along the way that the writer doesn't know the answer to. She asked him what he did last weekend. We have no idea, so the writer will ask these kinds of things. But then, I mean, the next thing is really, besides some questions, is whenever there's a date set up, I mean, our team is just checking on the client's availability.
Okay, so you're quite right. I guess it takes apart. The online dating process is fairly ambiguous in terms of getting to know people anyway. It's not the best way to learn about someone. So you're helping these people get to a date as quickly as you can with minimal effort. And
exactly.
I mean, go ahead.
In terms of like quickness, I mean, really, we're just exchanging. We ask for the date, meaning we suggest taking things offline when the other person has sent us between 2 to 4 emails usually. So it's not like there's this huge communication history that's occurring between the time of the initial contact and them actually meeting in person. It's just a few emails. So it's really, I mean, online dating is really about like weeding through this huge mass of people that are online and to try to find a few people with whom you might have some chemistry. But chemistry is impossible to determine really until you actually get in person and meet someone, whether it's coffee or meeting for drinks or doing some kind of activity date.
Right. So all of this knowledge and skill you personally developed from, like, how did you spend a year online dating? Did you go on lots of dates? Like, what was your personal, background to develop this intelligence about online dating?
Yeah, well, I never kept track of how many dates I went on, but I was going some weeks, on like 4 dates a week, which just got crazy. But a lot of them would kind of spiral into girlfriends or seeing someone more steady. But I never kept a count when I was doing it for myself. If I would have known I was going to start a company around it, I probably would have. But I still do it for myself now, and I still meet a ton of girls. I mean, even when I travel, like I'll go to a new city and I'll line up, not necessarily dates, but I'll line up a bunch of girls that want to meet before I get there. Right. It's once you know how to do it, you can be very, very effective, and you can meet a lot of people. But kind of building that knowledge did take a long time. I mean, I started on Facebook when Facebook was just kind of exploding. I mean, I think when it came on my campus. When University of Georgia first got, everybody got access with their university email addresses. The first thing I did when I logged in is I was like looking around. I was like, wow, look at all these hot chicks. Like, can I send them an email? Is it really this easy? Like, because I wasn't ever like just, completely frustrated and terrible with women, but it wasn't the easiest thing for me to do to like walk up to a girl and in a bar in front of other people and start talking to her. That was never easy for me. So online, I was just like, wow, there's actually, if she doesn't respond to my email, I don't care. It's not really rejection. So I just saw like, wow, this is awesome because I can reach out to these girls. If they don't respond, that's fine because I'm not going to feel bad about it. So I got online. What I saw is I saw opportunity. And so I went from there and I learned what worked on Facebook, and then eventually Facebook just got flooded. I mean, I did it so early that I didn't have any competition really, because I don't think many guys at the very beginning realized the potential for dating on Facebook. Then everybody kind of got it, and now Facebook's just kind of, I mean, the girls, like I have girlfriends that are attractive on Facebook. They just get bombarded by all these creepy guys. So eventually it became less effective. I tried to do it after I left the relationship out of college. I tried to do more Facebook stuff. It wasn't that effective. I moved to online dating, which at the beginning was really ineffective because I didn't know what I was doing. And then it took a long time, and I finally started to realize that it's nothing like Facebook. It's kind of a different game and everything in its own right. And after a lot of pain, I finally started to figure it out. And once I got it figured out, then I was like, wow. And so that's when I just started. I was dating a lot of weeks. I would go on like 4 or 5 dates in a week.
Busy man.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm curious because online dating environments are different around the world. So I'm assuming Argentina is not the same as America. It's not the same as Australia here. Like, for example, in Australia, we use completely different websites to what I presume you guys use, because it's Plenty of Fish is the big site in America, right?
Yeah, it's a big site, but it's also a terrible site. The better sites like OkCupid's really big too. Not as big as Plenty of Fish, but they've got way better quality for another free site. And then like your Match.com is a paid site that's really good. But we've done a little bit of work in Australia. I know you guys use the RSVP site, and there's some people on Plenty of Fish and over there in Australia as well.
Yep.
So you use RSVP, or what do you use?
Well, we have, I guess, a similar structure. We've got RSVP as the paid one, and then Oasis Active has become recently the more popular one, and it's free. And then, it's like the extension of the American ones, like Plenty of Fish, or a while ago, I remember there was a couple other ones. I think Match.com is coming here, and there's eHarmony's been advertising on TV a lot. So I haven't personally used all of those, but it seems to be a big market. And I know from my experience, I've used Oasis and RSVP, and the difference between a paid service and a free site is quite different as well in terms of the type of people. So there's quite a lot of intricacies in online dating. Now, I don't want to go into a podcast interview on how to do online dating. Maybe that's another topic. But I can see how you develop the intelligence to make this work, which it is an area where I think most people will come online. This is my experience. Start using online dating, and it was horrible. It was like impossible to get some people to write back. You get frustrated because as a guy, you'd spend money and then get no replies, or people would be very flaky, and you didn't know what's going wrong. And it's exhausting. It's that sort of thing. So I can see how outsourcing this is something that people would want to do. How did you turn it into a business? Did you already have contractors, outsourcers ready to take on work? How did you build your website? How did you get customers? Take us through the process from your little apartment in Argentina.
Yeah, sure. Well, I did have some potential resources lined up, mainly kind of like friends of friends kind of thing. I didn't really try to staff before I knew that I was going to, have the demand. I just figured that would be a good problem to have, to be understaffed, and then figure that out. So I launched with just some potential, employees in mind. And then what I did is what I realized really early in the process of kind of planning how this company could actually work is I realized that the idea itself was really innovative and controversial, which is an amazing kind of combination for press coverage. And also the dating aspect. I mean, the media loves to talk about love and relationships. So my initial strategy was just to try to basically bootstrap a website and kind of get some basic systems and everything in line, and just blast this thing to the media. Put out press releases, make direct contacts, and just go crazy with it. So that's essentially what I did. I mean, I had the website up in just a couple weeks. I mean, I outsourced the design of the website. I don't know how to I'm not a web designer, graphic designer, and I really wasn't interested in learning, so I outsourced that down in Argentina for really cheap. That kind of service you can get down here for really cheap. So I did it through a friend of a friend, had them create it, and then the next step was just I went through and I identified a ton of journalists that I wanted to contact. I actually did the contacting myself, and I had I had a few strategies for identifying them. Some people I literally sent messages through Facebook because I couldn't find their contact information anywhere. But I was looking for journalists that have covered like any kind of similar things in the past. I found some other controversial kind of dating companies and things, and found everybody that had written about them before. And I, looked for other people that were doing a lot of dating through publications that I wanted to be in. That were doing a lot of writing on the topic of online dating. So I made a spreadsheet of like 100, I think it was 130 journalists. And I just started sending emails. I created a press release, started sending emails, and it worked really well, almost too well. It basically, I kind of had a launch date and everything on there. Even before I launched, I was launching on June 10th. I sent all the press releases out, I think, about 4 or 5 days before the launch. Before I even launched, I think it's 2 days before, I was on TechCrunch, which is huge. I'm sure you're familiar with TechCrunch. So I had a it's huge.
To feature you though.
Exactly. It's technology related. We're using technology to find relationships, and they cover a lot of online dating things. I myself was surprised, but TechCrunch picked it up. VentureBeat picked it up. Just kind of covering because it was a new idea, and they picked it up. And that day this is 2 days before the launch. Both of those went online. That day I got a call from ABC News, interested in doing a story, and it just kind of spiraled. I knew that. Listen, if this thing's going to work, the reason it's going to work at the beginning, at least, is because the PR angle is going to kick ass. Everybody's going to love writing about it. It's going to spiral into something, and basically, it became kind of viral within the PR community. They picked it up. New York Times ran the TechCrunch article on their website. It just spiraled out of control. I searched on Google the day after the TechCrunch stuff, and for my company name, and I don't remember exactly how many results, but it was over like 2,000 results. And I just had a website thrown together like a week before, So this everything just spun online. It just went really, really viral, and I had tons of people just contacting me. And I'm like, whoa.
Were they? Yeah, they wanted.
I got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted to buy, right? Like that was
exactly. Yeah, you got to do it. So at that point, I just went crazy, because it was like, now I have the system, it works, but it hasn't been tested on guys under 5'7". Like, it hasn't been tested with bald guys. I was like, whoa, because I'm being put to the test. So then I had to execute. And one of the big things that happened then, as well, is Urban Daddy, which is like an online magazine. They send, I think, their subscription list at the time was around 100. I think they told me 120,000, and they sent a reporter in to actually try the service. They wanted to for us to write his profile and do all these things. So I had a writer. I helped with writing the profile. I also had a writer help me out. We created a profile, and that went online just a couple weeks later, and that actually was huge for the startup. I got so many leads from that. It was around like 20 leads in like just a couple days, because they put this thing in people's inboxes. This would have cost, at least 15. I don't know, at least 10 or 15K. Just to have done like an advertising within another email for that kind of publication. It's very it's my target market. It's big people in big cities with money.
So they were emailing the case study of this journalist using your service. Is that right?
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. It wasn't. It was kind of a case study, but it was kind of like a fun, punchy story. It's about this new company. If you want to outsource your dating, they're here. And it just kind of talked about the journalist went in and he talked about a couple of things that we did for him. Like, we set up his username. His username was Dangerous with Rocks, because he had a really good story about how he'd accidentally knocked out his father with a when they were hiking when he was little. And so his username for Plenty of Fish was dangerous with rocks. And so anyways, it kind of just it displayed our company in a very positive light when we were just launching it. We basically being me and a couple other people I had working with me. So at that point, it was like, okay, this thing can work because, I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you have something like this that can garner massive amounts of press coverage, and I'm doing this, imagine I'm doing this alone with no experience in PR. All I know how to do is write. I know marketing and sales, and I'm getting on the New York Times website before I even launched a company out of my own apartment. And this thing's got a lot of potential in terms of just getting mass press coverage for no cost at all. So that was kind of the launch. And I mean, once I did that, it was just like, wow, now I've got to move a little bit of my focus from continuing to, to kind of court the media to actually executing. So then I went to execution phase, which was difficult. I mean, it was really tough because, I had a little bit of the systems in place and I had the process. I knew how to get people dates, but actually doing it, I hadn't really planned that much for, because I didn't want like a really long planning period before I tested it. It was kind of like the test it before you, or like, test the market before you build it kind of thing. It was a service. And so a lot of people that launch services, I think a lot of times don't really do this. I mean, I feel like they spend a lot of time on testing and planning and creating these huge glamorous business plans. I just got the idea and I just launched.
I'm going to stop you for a second here, Scott. I want to clarify something. So all this attention is focused at your website. The people coming to your website, are they seeing like a package they can buy right then for a set price?
Yeah, at that point, I only had one package.
Okay.
And I was charging substantially less than I'm charging now. I was charging $480 and guaranteeing 2 dates. Now, to guarantee 2 dates, I charge $720. But it was a guarantee of 2 dates a month, $480 per month. The billing wasn't really recurring. I didn't have that set up. Still don't, but it was like a month-to-month basis. It was advertised as like, listen, you pay $40 a month. You're guaranteed 2 dates with people that you pre-approve.
Okay. So you're sitting in Argentina. You've got all this press. You're basically had the website outsourced from Argentina. You've got a couple of people who could help you to write profiles. It's $480 for your initial package back then. And you must have had a bunch of people buy, and you've actually never delivered the service to anyone other than your close friends and family. Were you overwhelmed? Like if you had 100 people suddenly to do profiling for, you couldn't manage that with just you and 2 other writers. You'd need, unless you do it very slowly over the period of 2 or 3 months, it would it's like a bottleneck there. No.
Yeah, I mean, it was the business model itself. If I had the thing about it, it's not a very scalable business model. I knew that from the start because it's obvious. I worked in a translation company that was it was a human-driven service, and that's how these kind of services are. They are very difficult to scale. So I immediately had a waiting list. I had a waiting list within a week of starting. I took on a bunch of clients right away, and I literally was just going crazy hiring people and kind of teaching them what I was doing, exactly how to implement my system, and then we just went to work. I mean, at the beginning, I hired everyone here. Now that I've got my systems and everything down, everything's way more defined. I don't care where people are. I just hire the best writers possible. But I got a bunch of people here. And we just started executing, and I brought a waiting list. I started a waiting list right away, and then I just focused on execution, which went on for a few months, just basically just trying to keep everybody happy, because I didn't want to start my business off by having complaints. It's the last thing I wanted. I wanted it to work, so we basically just worked our asses off for people, for really not that much money, but hell, we were getting paid to my company was profitable within a week, which is what I needed. I didn't want to go home.
Yeah, well, that's way quicker than 5 months. So yeah, probably a bit unexpected how quickly that happened. But obviously, I can see why that's such an amazing hook for press coverage, and especially if you're one of the first people to do that. The coverage. What I love about this is you're doing it in Argentina and you're getting all this coverage in America. And did you go on like ABC over the phone, or did you have to fly to do these sort of things, or?
The ABC was an online piece, which ran a little bit later. But I did. It was about a year later. My first the first like 6 months, the press kind of thing, it was all inbound, and so it was, blogs and things. I mean, I set up Google Alerts, so I found out when people were talking about me. I was getting alerts all the time, because a lot of people were talking and writing online, but I wasn't really doing anything proactively to generate that. It just really all started from those initial releases. Later, I would go on to hire a girl who had a background in PR, who kind of took all of that to the next level for me. And I did, a year after we launched, I did Good Morning America, which is obviously pretty big, and then I did Fox and Friends. Just went to New York and did the 2 shows right around a year after I launched. The Fox and Friends was live, which actually was crazy. But in the meantime, I actually had a lot of prep for that, because although I didn't do any TV stuff, and there were a couple of kind of things looming that I postponed and kind of hurt myself by not doing them, but I was really focused on execution, so I didn't want to leave where I was. I just wanted to stay in like the frame of kind of servicing the clients that we already had. And so, but I did a lot of radio interviews. I did 3 BBC radio interviews for different BBC channels before I even did the Today Show. So I was already like so well versed in talking about my company. And I mean, even the day after I started, I'm doing a radio interview from my apartment. And I'm just, this is like just something that I just started 2 weeks ago, and I'm talking about it live on the radio. So it was wild. It was crazy. I thought it was going to go well from the start, but I didn't really expect it to explode that way in terms of like the press coverage. But which is great, because it was, for me in that situation, it was such a confidence builder, because I was just thrown into, I mean, the easiest way to build confidence, I think, is to get way outside your comfort zone. And I was thrown way outside of my comfort zone immediately. And just, I had to kind of scramble, but then I got everything into gear, and that's, since then I've just been focused on, continuing to keep the momentum going.
Okay, so let's go through from that point forward. How many years ago was that when you started it?
I started it 2 years ago. It was June of 2009.
All right, so you've got this press, you've got the first few clients, a bunch of people on a waiting list. The press keeps coming. How do you expand out the business and get yourself to a point where you're not working probably 12-hour days, but you must have had to work at that point?
Yeah. Well, to tell you the truth, I still do work 12-hour days, but
Okay.
I'm working on some other stuff now that's like kind of like almost starting another business, which is like trying to build out the product side, which is going to take a long time, and it's really taking me a long time to actually learn how to do this stuff. But actually the service side, getting that down, really was about processes more than anything. And the guide I had kind of like everything I was doing was kind of like just as we were going, we're developing it. But at some point, I just kind of decided, like, listen, we've got to develop this way faster. And so I basically had writers that developed this whole like really extensive manual for like, it was kind of an internal manual for everything we were doing. And because a lot of the stuff I was doing, I was training, and I was having to say the same things over and over again. And that's when you realize you're saying the same thing a bunch more than 2 or 3 times, then you realize, okay, this should be somewhere that within some kind of guide or system that everybody can follow. So I just started working on creating these internal systems, basically. So I did, like even the way we manage all these contacts with the online dating sites, I've basically found a customizable CRM application. So we're using CRM to manage this dating process, which goes from like this initial email, because dating is like this perfect sales process. You've like send these emails. It's like direct marketing. You send like a bunch of emails, and then some people respond that are interested, and you convert them into opportunities. And then once you kind of try to cultivate these opportunities into sales, which are first dates. So it's fairly linear, the process. So we customized a CRM system, and we built all these manuals and processes internally. And that takes a lot of time, especially when you've already got a bunch of clients and you've got to keep them happy. So that was kind of where we are, and like we're finally at the point where that's all taken care of, and now I'm like working on other things so that it's fairly scalable now. It's still difficult to scale with any kind of service company. I think like this can be very difficult to scale. Still fairly difficult to scale, but now I'm working on kind of building products, which is obviously way more scalable. Just kind of learning that side of the business, and are getting finally close to launching something there.
You have a great platform for selling information products as well on top of the services, I can see. But obviously, at the end of the day, the service, I think, you can't replace the service with a product. It'll just be, I guess, a more affordable option, right, for those people who want to do it themselves.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is that most of our clients, they're really, we have people that really do have problems like meeting women, but a lot of them are just, it's really a time issue. And online dating does take time. I mean, like meeting women in period takes time. If you're going to go out to a bar a couple nights a week and spend 4 or 5 hours there, and try to meet girls, that adds up fast. And same thing goes for online. I mean, it takes time. So yeah, I think the service is really for like one type of person that's like, working a lot, doesn't have the time, and the product is for another type of person who has the time, but, doesn't necessarily know what it takes to get dates online, which is, 97% of guys. So, and I think the two also can work very well in a synergistic way, where the products, by selling those online, driving a lot of traffic to an offer for a product, can also drive drive revenue to the service side by people that are driven to the product and see, okay, well, this is what this company does. They've got this product, but I don't really want the product. I want the service. And so I think it can happen in both directions, but really more from the product being kind of like a gateway product into the service, which is brilliant because it can be a profitable advertising outlet for the actual service.
Now, you keep mentioning men. I'm assuming the majority of men use the service, but do you ever have women use the service?
Yeah, we do. It fluctuates, the percentage of women. It's kind of crazy the way that it's fluctuated since we've started. Whereas like one point we hit like almost a 50% split, and then another point we're like at like 5 or 10%. I mean, right now we're like between 5 and 10% women. I mean, just a few months ago we were at like the split was like 35%. 35% women, 65% men. So there's a bit of a variation. I don't really know what causes that, but we have worked with a lot of women clients, with a lot of female clients, and so yeah, I mean we do, and eventually we're going to move into like information on that side and in the gay market as well. We have some gay clients right now, but yeah, I mean the majority of our clients, as we started, the majority of the demand, it seems, has been on the straight men side.
Right. Now, the costs, I'm looking at your pricing page. You've got $360 for the initial, package, $720 per month, and $1,440 per month, with 2 dates or 4 dates per month guaranteed. Now, this is not an entry-level cost for an average person. I can imagine maybe people in executive positions or wealthy people using this. Is that generally the demographic you've got? The busy doctors, the busy lawyers, busy accountants, whatever it is, that predominantly use the service?
Yeah, I mean the majority of our clients almost all of our clients make at least 75 plus. The lower package, I would say, it's a lot of the people are between like the 75 to 150 range. And then to get, to the executive package, I mean, people using executive, it's really rare that anyone would sign up for $1,440 a month unless they're making at least $150K a year. So yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily these, like super uber wealthy people. I mean, but it is like we get a lot of entrepreneurs. We get a lot of doctors. We get lawyers. We get, pilots. We've actually had quite a few pilots sign up for the service. It tends to be the people the people that don't have a lot of time, and have pretty good income. But you'd be surprised how many people that are making 75 K will dish out $600 or $720 a month for their dating, because it's such an important part of most people's lives. Just actually, like, especially the people that our service tends to cater more to people that are more marriage minded. because people that are looking for something very long term and looking for love and making a family they don't really put so much of a value on that. So they figure, listen, if there's a shot they can do this for me, then because matchmakers out there's a lot of professional matchmakers that charge 10K and you pay it all up front. So this is this is a lot less expensive than a lot of options for people that are looking for this kind of assistance.
Okay, interesting. Now, I'm curious in terms of business growth. Now, you already talked about transitioning to a mix of information products as well as the service, which makes a lot of sense. What have you found has been the challenge in terms of growth outside of that? Like, is it hiring the right people? Is that difficult? Setting up systems you said was critical, and I can see why. That's definitely something. But what as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, what do you struggle with, and would advise other people to consider before they jump into starting their own business?
I would say, right now, the least scalable aspect of the model is expertise. And, the problem really is that there are so many scenarios that exist, whether it's a client heading to Russia to meet women, or it's a client, that's just, that's traveling city to city to city. There's just so many different potential scenarios that require someone that really, really, really understands online dating, and hiring for that is difficult. I can hire a ton of talented writers, and I can teach them, the general process. But if they haven't had thousands of hours of experience managing online dating accounts, it's very difficult for that to be hired. It's just such a specific thing that we're doing that it's really, really hard in that aspect to scale. So what I need experts in online dating to work as managers that kind of oversee these employees, because that's where I'm still spending a lot of time now, is with the high level expertise. All right. So for me, that's the biggest obstacle right now in terms of scaling. The writers, like finding people to write these emails, is not that hard, really. It takes good writers, but even right now we have the process so automated, and we've got, we post all over these online things, and they send, they have to send an email to an address, and it responds with an autoresponder that gives them more information and tells them where to send another email if they want to take this test. If they're still interested, they send another email to there, and they've got to be ready to take a test, which is automatically delivered. So the hiring process, you can get that you can automate that. You can, basically just get that down to, so that all you're doing is reviewing some tests, and you go through, and because writing is writing. I don't care what they did. I don't care about their resume. I just want to know if they can write good online dating emails or not. It's really simple. So that's really easy to hire for. But in terms like this kind of service, it really depends on expertise, and that, to be able to scale this kind of service and have a lot of clients, you need to be able to have someone with the expertise. And so right now, that's my biggest limitation. It's hard to find someone that knows as much about online dating as I do to hire to bring on even more clients, because it still takes a lot of my time for all these very, specific situations that occur, and in terms of managing those.
It's the standard problem of finding A players to grow your company. I think everyone has that challenge. Yours is different because you obviously have a certain type of expertise you're looking for.
Exactly.
So, could you maybe give us a little breakdown? You said you're working 12 hours a day, and you're working on different projects. How do you live your life, Scott? Is it what do? Do you get up, turn on the computer, and start writing, or what's a day in the life of Scott Valdez?
It's the first time I've been asked this question. Well, yeah, really that is it. I basically wake up. I still work out of my apartment, which I love. But I wake up, I go through my emails. There's a lot of this kind of what I was talking about before. These very specific questions I need to answer. Just kind of waiting for me. I'll go through the emails. Then I'll spend like a few hours kind of on developing, kind of working on the marketing and developing product related things that I'm trying to launch right now. And I spend a lot of time with that, just trying to get I have different people working on different things, so I'm making sure that everybody's kind of doing their jobs kind of on development. And so I'll spend a few hours there, and then I'll spend a while. I'm still at the point where I still do some like overflow writing, which can take me like, sometimes a couple hours a day. And it has to do with, right now, I mean, talking about current schedule, I'm still doing like some of the back and forth writing. So I'll log in and write some emails, send those out. And then at nighttime, until quite late, usually I'm working on the product as of late. For example, tonight I'm still got some audio modules that I'm working on the recording of. I've written the scripts, but I need to actually lay down the audio tracks. So when we get off the phone, I'm going to be basically recording about an hour of audio segments. So it's a long day. I mean, right now, the reason it's still so long, even though I've outsourced most of the process, because I feel like right now I'm kind of the information product thing, and developing that has almost been like starting a whole new company, because it's related. Obviously, I'm packaging up expertise into a product, but it's completely different. Everything from the marketing to the actual creation of the product. I mean, it has nothing to do with the service besides, like what I said. So it takes a lot of time to develop that and to learn that. I mean, learning how to market a product online, and develop all, to set up all these systems and these autoresponders, and, figuring out what converts on the sales page. I mean, I hired a guy to write the sales page for me. And even, I paid him like, it wasn't much, but I paid him like $1,500 and to write the sales copy, and I get it back and it was like garbage, and I did it on Elance. And so it's one of those things where like you make a lot of mistakes along the way trying to figure out, how the hell to create these products. But luckily I had the service where it was like profitable. And so I've been using the money from that side to like, to cover all these costs of developing this product and then now launching it. And then I think that the product's really going to help to build the service as well. So hopefully soon, once that's launched, then I can finally find some people with some more expertise to handle the service side, and I can focus on the product side, which is way sexier because it's way more scalable and it's a little more hands off. I mean, it's way better in tune with the whole lifestyle kind of business thing, which is the long-term goal.
Yep.
Not to work 12 hours.
Yeah, obviously. And you're in Buenos Aires, you must have beaches and something to do, working, right?
No beaches, but we do have, amazing nightlife, great food, access to, tons of things that are always going around. It's a great city to be in. So it is nice to get distracted, and I do get distracted, especially with women and dating, because that's one of my, one of my passions.
You still practice what you preach, right?
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm not currently online dating, but I am seeing, 3 girls turning into 2 now. And so just managing kind of dating it takes a lot of time. Dating is a time sink, but it's a fun one. So yeah, that's it's going to be nice when I have a little more time to focus on my own dating life rather than that of 20, 30, 40, depends on the month. But lately we've been having like between 30 and 40 clients. So just trying to get all these other dudes dates, and then sitting at home working, it's like, it's kind of frustrating, but it'll be nice to finally have the amount of time I have to work, down quite a bit.
Okay. Now, just before we wrap up, Scott, just for all those people listening to this and this is a great chance to pitch your services too, does this sort of thing actually work for, the what people consider typically challenging, let's put it that way, aspects of online dating? Like you said, the bald men, overweight, short, all these what people consider, not typically, they're, I don't know the nicest way to be politically correct here, but there are things to overcome when it comes to from the dating environment. So have you found that what you guys do with your virtual datingassistance.com service can really help people from regardless of where they're coming from?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the thing is like we don't really discriminate in terms of like accepting clients based on how they look in any way. Really, what we look for is like what their expectations are. I think, a lot of people that are trying to sell products and things, they'll tell you you're going to get a response to 100% of your emails, and you're going to date, bombshell women, even if you're 5'5", that doesn't really exist online, and it just really doesn't exist off either. I mean, it happens, but it's not. The world we live in is highly competitive, and it is more difficult. So there's people that are at disadvantages to dating. But that said, And we do amazing things for our clients. It's the reason they pay month to month to month for our services is because we get them results, and they're the results that they want. They pre-approve candidates that women that they want to meet, and we get them dates. It's not, it takes some time, but it's really, we're highly effective at what we do. And any guy that is willing to learn this stuff and put the time into it, he can get great dates. It doesn't matter what he looks like. The women are out there. If you know how to position yourself online, you know how to communicate in a way that women find attractive online. It doesn't matter if you're 5'5" and bald, you can still get dates.
And flip that around for women.
Women, it's the same way. Women is the same way for sure. It is more difficult for women, in terms of the, not being as attractive, but because, men put so much of their weight on looks, whereas guys can have a lot of other things going for them, and they just can kind of overshadow, their problems in the looks department. Whereas women, it's more difficult, but still though, we've had some very unattractive female clients, and we've still been able to get them quality dates, and they've been happy and renewed the service. I think anyone that's really, really unrealistic in dating can be disappointed, but as long as they're fairly realistic, if you know what you're doing online, it's like any other dating it's like offline dating. If you're fairly realistic and you know what you're doing, if you're a guy and you learn how to pick up chicks at a bar and you get really good at it, then you're going to be dating some really attractive chicks for, based on what you have to offer. And the same thing goes for online. You just have to know what you're doing. And so we do it, we do it for women just like we do it for men. It is a little more difficult just because the weight is different on, the attractiveness scale and how much that matters to men. But for sure, across the board, if you know what you're doing, you can get amazing dates online.
All right. And if people want to chase this up, where's the best entry point into your business?
Yeah, the best entry point is virtualdatingassistance.com. And so from there, we've got basically on the top, we've got a navigation bar that has information about our services as well as our products, which we're just kind of finishing up now. But so if you go to our website, you'll see on the left-hand side, it kind of talks about delegating your dating. So if you're interested in outsourcing your dating to us, that's where you can get started. If you're interested in kind of learning how to do it for yourself, there's a bar there that says Learn Our Secrets. So you click on that, and from there you can go to some free articles, and we also have our blog there, and you can kind of read up on how things are done online. And if you're interested in the product we have coming out, which is called the Click Magnet Dating System, you can just put your information. We've got an ebook format of it now, but really we're developing a completely different product than we're trying to sell online now. We're revamping it. So you can either buy the one we have now, and as soon as the other product's ready, you'll get it for free, or you can just fill out the newsletter form on our website, and you'll get some free information there. And we'll announce to our list whenever the Click Magnet Dating System product is completed.
All right, cool. Now, Scott, just before I hang up on you here, in terms of your situation now, there's no risk of you having to go live back with your parents, right?
Yeah, no risk at all. Unless something drastic were to happen. Cash flow at this point is quite predictable. Even right now, we've got a waiting list. So, it's right now it's become, it's a well-paid job for me, and I expect as things continue, it's going to be a very well-paid job. And I think, especially with the product side, I think it's going to be very scalable. And hopefully, I will be doing much better than my father.
So you basically got a six-figure online business in terms of revenue, and it didn't take too long to set it up.
Yeah. Well over 6 figures, and right now I'm just a little bit less than 2 years in. All
right, Scott, thank you very much. Any last words before I do my wrap-up routine here?
No, go for it.
Okay, thank you very much for joining me on the call, Scott. I found that really interesting, probably a little too interesting, actually, because it's two subjects I like, the online dating world and the internet marketing world. So thank you for sharing the more specifics there. That was great. And good luck with it going forward. I'm sure you will have a thriving business for a long time. That's a fairly core human need, the old dating one. So
exactly.
And for anyone else who's interested in obviously learning more about what Scott's doing with his business, you can check out virtualdatingassistance.com. And if you want to have listen to more interviews with people like Scott who have started their own online business and they've come on board to spill the beans with me in an interview, you can find those interviews available like this in downloadable MP3 at my blog, which is at entrepreneurs-journey.com, or you can just Google my name, which is Yaro, Y-A-R-O, and you will find all the podcasts there under the podcasts link in the navigation bar. Thanks, Scott. Thank you for listening to this interview, everyone, and I'll catch you all soon on a future interview.